All right, everybody, how y'all doing? I wanted to eat my leftovers from last night. We had some spicy broth. Well, we had some spicy ramen from last night. I ate half of it last night. I had the other half tonight. My girlfriend made me some General Chang's chicken to go along with it. And now that I have eaten and I feel significantly better, and I think the broth had more to do with it than anything, I am going to sit here and watch this game with you guys because I wanted to do like an actual like landfall hour tonight and everything. It just didn't really materialize. And I don't really pay attention to the commentary during ESPN broadcasts anyway. Same thing with TNT. So I don't mind, you know, having one of these watch parties tonight. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while. Let me get this. All right. There we go. That should be working now. Let me see. Yep. Okay, cool. It's working now. All right. I'll get to some of the comments here and then we'll talk some more about the game. I will say this, though. I'm firmly of the belief that the Seth Jarvis rotator cuff thing is a psyop after that shorthanded goal he scored earlier. Kid has got an absolute cannon of a wrist shot. He might be the closest thing we have to a legitimate sniper on the team right now until such time as Bradley Nadeau makes the jump. I'm going to try and fix this again. I don't know why it's not wanting to. Give me 1 second. Why is this? Quality of this camera is being incredibly weird for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, we'll do that instead. That works better. Let's see, what do we got here? Good save by Kochekov there. Alrighty. But yeah, Carolina is a completely different animal shorthanded, so let's see what we got for the comments here. Dylan, what's up, bro? We seem to be playing with a lot more energy since Rance left. It's really amazing. Yeah, it like I said, the on Sunday, it just looked like a paradigm shift in the team. Like it legitimately, like that wasn't just a statement game for the season. That was more of a turning point. And if they manage to get if they manage to beat Connor Hellebuyck the other night, they can beat Andre Vasilevsky. I know Vasilevsky is still widely regarded as the best goalie on the planet. He should be. And it's like we can beat him though. You got you got to have moments like the one that Seth Jarvis had on that shorthanded goal to make it happen, but it can be done. So Aaliyah Yasmin, glad you're feeling better, bro. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm feeling a million times better. I actually went to work today. I didn't think that I would when I went to bed last night. I woke up feeling a lot better. And, as great as modern medicine is and everything, I really think that just getting some really spicy miso was what I really, really needed to, get myself going again. Sorry. So let me shift this over here because with the way that my all right, there we go. With the way that my microphone is positioned. Ooh, what happened to Ghost there? I was looking away from the TV. With the way my microphone's positioned and where my TV's at and everything, it makes it kind of difficult. I might end up just pulling the game up on the computer and going that way about it. I just got to make sure I don't accidentally do the share screen thing or else I'll get copyrighted. And I'm like doing my best to make sure there's like no reflection of the game itself, like on my walls or anything, because they can copyright you for that. Because the NHL's still in the fucking dark ages with people using their footage. They're that much into the dark ages of people using their footage. So, but yeah, I think after the first period, I'm going to end up just pulling it up on the computer to make it easier because this is like mad difficult what I'm trying to do right now. I will say this, Carolina, I know they got a shorthanded goal on that one play, but like that that first penalty kill was a little sloppy. Martinook did a good job, like keeping Kucherov contained in particular, but they got to clean that up. Otherwise, Tampa's power play is going to, really like take it to them. All right, there we go. Solid zone defense, good exit. One of the things I like about Jankowski, he's definitely you can tell he's got a defensively responsible side to his game, and I saw that too when he was playing in Nashville. I remember watching him play a little bit when he was in Calgary and everything. But I think what more than anything, he's still like got the ability in him to fly the zone a little bit quicker than a lot of other guys on the Hurricanes do, and I hope that they don't totally beat that out of him, because that's part of the reason he scored the other night, and that was part of the reason he created all that separation. Scott Morrow was able to hold on to the puck for an extra second before passing it to him. So that's one of the things that I really, really like about Jankowski's game. Just one of the little things I've noticed since he's come to Carolina. Is that going to be a penalty? Let's see the replay here. That's what it looks like. Are they both going? Okay, so 2 minutes for hooking. And I guess they're getting Gostisbehere for embellishment. See, 90% of the time, I never agree with that call. I think it's either got to be one or the other. You don't embellish that. Are they actually calling embellishment on that? What the fuck? Okay, hold up. Let me pull this game up on my computer, because it'll be easier for me to actually see what's going on. All right, so them calling Ghost for interference, that makes a little bit more sense, honestly, because I can't hear it right now, because even if the audio's in the background, if they catch any of that, they can copyright me for it. So, all right. All right, I've almost got it pulled up here. All righty, there we go. Go ahead and turn that off there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set this up to where I can view the game on this side and put this over here on this side. Don't know why I didn't think to do that before. That would make things a lot easier in the future if I did it that way. All right, there we go. Now I can view the game, and I can talk to you wonderful people. That all works out. All right, let's get to some more of the comments here. Or we'll get some more of the comments in the next stoppage of play. Damn, Hagel's got some wheels, bro. Jeez. He handles the puck really well, but his speed is just like the main catalyst of his game. Speaking of, he used it again there to generate that entry for Cirelli. who I think is still a very underrated player. I really like Anthony Cirelli. He's one of my favorite non-Hurricanes. He's got to be in the top 10. I like Hedman a lot, too. Yeah, I'd have to say my 3 favorite players on Tampa are probably Hagel, Hedman, and Cirelli. I liked Anthony Cirelli a long time before a lot of people really started paying attention to him, though. I just like that type of player, that speedy, responsible two-way player. Maybe doesn't have a ton of offense at some point or another, but you're always going to get like a really good defensive game out of him. That he's always going to cover all 3 zones really well and everything. All right, back to 5-on-5. Shit, did they score? No. Okay, looks like Cooch kept that one out. Let's see what happened here. See, at least I can have the volume on through my headphones here and watch it a little bit. Blake is really lucky he didn't get a slashing call there earlier, especially considering he got that one at the beginning of the game. Yeah, Blake got really lucky there, guys. All right. See, that's one thing I wish Carolina just did a little bit more instead of wrapping it around the board so much. If they just had a little bit more control on the zone exits, and you got players that are totally capable of it. I mean, like right now, Walker and Gostisbehere alone, they generate a ton of. Speaking of Walker transitioning through the neutral zone as it is, good pass for Hall. He's got some wheels too, man. Absolutely perfect fit here with that speed. And he's not just got the speed, he's got the responsible mindset too. So, it's like when you're playing good defense as a forward, back checking and all that, it's not so much about being able to get to where you're supposed to be. It's knowing what you're supposed to do when you get there. And that's one thing that I think that Nate just never really found here. Oh boy, here we go. So Gordon and Jost have their gloves off. I'm surprised Sean Walker hadn't dropped his gloves yet, because the longer and longer the season goes on, it seems like the more and more that he's into like everything. I think Jost and Gord are probably just going to both get roughing minors, maybe double minors, but I don't think they're actually going to call 5 for fighting for that. Okay, Jost's gloves never came off, actually. Let's see how they sort this out as far as penalties go. No, they didn't give anybody any penalties for that. Okay, I guess we're going to let them play then. See, that's one of the things people talk about, how Slavin doesn't skate the puck out a whole lot. He prefers doing stuff with outlet passes. That's just his game. And one of the best parts about it is when he does that, he almost never ices the puck. You'll notice that at a minimum it gets to the other end without getting iced, because normally he'll at least generate a good enough of an exit to where, or generate a good enough of an outlet pass to where somebody gets a stick on it on the way through. So that way, it nullifies the icing and everything like that. So really, really good element of his game. Oh, good save there by Cooch. He didn't have much time on that one. I noticed that nobody's booing Gensel. Nobody can say that we're not plugged into what goes on as a fan base. I have not heard a single boo towards Gensel this entire game, especially now that we know that the front office kind of fumbled that situation. Not Miko, but they kind of did with Jake. So I won't call him the snake anymore, personally. All right, Hedman looking to set up a good breakout here for Tampa. Good job, Fishy. All righty. Let me go ahead and mute this here, and we will get to some of the comments, and then we'll get back to doing some other stuff here. Canes fan 1 says, how does that happen? Interference. Yeah, that's a weird one. Dylan Bollinger says, Cucci seems to play better against elite goalies for some reason. Yeah, I noticed that, man. That's amazing to me how that happens. I don't understand how he does that. Levy Lato says, hey, what's up? Nice to see you online again. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I'm feeling significantly better than what I was. I don't know if I'll stay on for the whole game, but I will do my best. Yeah, they called ghost for interference. We caught up on that one. Calling the penalty both ways is always the result of the ref instantly regretting the whistle. Yeah, I can see that. I even had an SPHL official tell me that there's been a lot of times either they do that or they wait a couple of minutes, or hell, not even a couple of minutes. A lot of times they'll 5 seconds into the power play that the other team has, they'll call a penalty on the other team, to negate that and turn it into 4-on-4. Dylan Bollinger says, I have really liked what I've seen out of Morrow. Yeah, me too. So far, so good with him. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be on the team full-time coming out of training camp. I really don't. Levy Lato says, Kochekov is on fire tonight. Very happy with how he's played so far. He's got a lot more control in his game than what he did before, because there's a lot of situations. I mean, the last game that he was in, there were a lot of situations where he would have came out and tried to poke check somebody at the top of the circle or whatever, and he's not really doing that like he used to. He's gotten a lot better about that. He's been a lot smarter about when he plays the puck, but there's still times he makes me incredibly nervous with it. It's just the nature of how he is as a goalie. He's starting to find that happy medium between being crazy, overly aggressive, and hesitant. You have to find that middle ground, and I think he's getting closer and closer to that. That being said, Kochekov is not developing as quickly as I was hoping that he would have, because I was hoping that we would have a definitive answer of like, yes, he is a starter by the time this season ended, because that would make the upcoming offseason a lot easier. But with the goalie market being as dry as it is, like, Carolina probably has to bring back the same tandem if they don't trade for one, because the only other guy they really could have got is off the board, and that's Kirill Vejmelka, and I don't think Vegas is going to let Aiden Hill go. So Smokey says Cooch is having to do way too much. Yeah, the zone defense needs to clean up. I noticed that when I was watching the game while I was eating. Like I said, that first penalty kill they had, Martinook did a pretty good job of keeping Kucherov concealed and not letting the puck get to him and keeping him to the boards and finishing his checks on him and everything. Slavin did a good job. Other than that, that penalty kill was just very, very sloppy. I understand they got a goal at the end of it, but still. What a save by Cucci. Levy Lato says, I feel like the gloves being off doesn't count for anything nowadays. I don't think it does either, just out of the simple fact that, it used to be back in the day, it seemed like anytime somebody shed the mitts and the other guy didn't, that the instigator penalty was called, even if not much really happened. Nowadays, that doesn't seem to happen so much. And I'm okay with that, because somebody shouldn't just automatically get 2 for instigating, 5 for fighting, and a 10 and or a game just because they dropped their gloves and one guy didn't. Because I can't tell you the number of times I saw somebody act like they were going to shake their mitts. The other guy drops his gloves, and then the other guy never does. And then next thing you know, somebody's out. So, yeah, not that it's a bad thing. I agree. Samuel Wallace, what's up, buddy? This game feels like playoff hockey. Yeah. Did you go to the game? I'm guessing you did. I didn't get the chance to check on anything in the group chat yet. If you guys have never listened to the Caniac Report, check them out. My buddies Sam Wallace and Sam Driscoll, they do a really, really good job with their stuff. And we're putting together a little something with all of us together for the end of the season. So stay tuned for some news on that. Reese Bailey, what's up, pal? Jost really disappoints me because he's out there doing basically nothing. 2 points in 22 games is crazy. Yeah, and he's getting used a lot more than what he initially expected to be. So the thing with Jost is he's as literal of a fourth line center as you can get. But that being said, he played well enough to where moving Drury was, possible. And regardless of what some may say about that trade, excuse me one second. Regardless of what some may say about that trade, something like that was going to happen regardless, even if we had a crystal ball to know that the Mikko situation was going to happen and they decided to move Natchez and Drury to get somebody else. I think that still would have happened. Jost is playing outside of his element now, and he's also one of those guys that doesn't do well on the wing. But as far as be a fourth line center, go out there, forecheck, hit people, and don't get scored on, he's really good for that, especially at his price point. So That's the only thing about it is when he's doing his actual job, he's fine, and he's like very, very cost effective. Aaliyah Yasmin says, Cooch handling the puck drives me crazy. Yeah, it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. I only get moderately nervous now when he does it, whereas back in the day, every time that he went out to play the puck, I was like, fuck, here we go. Like, that's what I thought every time. Dylan Bollinger says, Devils beating the Jackets so far. All right, that's unfortunate, but we'll see how it's going here. Let's see. Levy Lato says this has been a really entertaining goalie duel. Kochekov is schooling Vasilevsky. If he can do that, then I mean we're going to be in business. Samuel Wallace says I'd rather have Nadeau than Josto. I agree. I'm ready to see Nadeau in action, but I also don't know if they're going to like try to introduce him to playoff hockey or. I would rather him get some games now so that if he does need to be introduced to playoff hockey, he's at least got a few games in advance of it because it's a completely different monster. You know, the playoff or the regular season is like a pillow fight compared to the playoffs. The playoffs is like a knife fight in the phone booth, especially when you're 3-4 games into it and you're getting tired of seeing the same team over and over again. It just gets worse and worse. So we'll see how like that plays out and everything. But I would have liked to have seen him up as well. But I also understand, I guess they're trying to not change too much right now if they don't have to, considering Svechnikov is out, Orlov is out, Carrier is still out. So I guess they're just trying to keep as much familiarity in the lineup as possible. So Samuel Wallace asks, who would you rather face in the first round, Devils or Jackets? Now, nuanced answer to that here. Who I would rather play against is the Jackets, and not so much because I think that we would easily beat them. I think it's just would be good for the game, for the Jackets to make the playoffs and make it as a 3 seed, because that franchise has been through a whole lot in the last year. We all know why. So my personal reason for it, I would like to see somebody different. I want to see the Hurricanes play somebody different in the playoffs, because I feel like that we see the same teams over and over again with this playoff format. It's like we're always playing against the Islanders. Like we played the Islanders 3 times since the drought ended. We played the Bruins 3 times since the drought ended, if you count the bubble. We've seen the Rangers, if you count the bubble, if you count the Stanley Cup qualifiers that year, we've seen them 3 times. So I'm ready to start seeing some different teams in the playoffs. So I would personally rather play the Jackets. Now, as far as which team we would have an easier time beating, I think injuries and everything considered, we'd probably beat the Devils in 6. I legitimately believe that. That's not to say that they couldn't potentially pull something off. They've got a good enough team to do it. They've still got Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt in particular. But as far as like a team that would be harder to beat, Columbus would be significantly harder to beat. I'd rather see that series, though. I'd rather play against Columbus. I just want to see somebody different. Dylan Bollinger says Tulsky was asked by Adam Gold if Nadeau would get a chance, and he said, if an injury, it's a possibility. Yeah, and we still got to figure out what's going on with Svechnikov, too. So the reason I'm worried is because I was at the game where he tore his ACL, and I'm hoping it's nothing like that. But we actually found out about that relatively quickly. But like I said, I was at that game, and when I saw him pitch forward, go down the tunnel, come back out, and then go right back down the tunnel, I knew it was bad. I was like, yeah, that's not good. Whatever it is, we're not going to see him again this season. Levy Lato says, I remember some commentator calling Cooch the non-boring goalie, which is such a funny compliment. I can't forget it. I love the guy. That is absolutely true. No one can say that Kochekov is boring. That is most certainly, like, he's definitely not boring. Let's see how long we got on the intermission here. Okay, we got a while yet. So one thing I will probably do real quick now that I've got this whole thing up here. Let's go like this. I do not care about the Great Chase. Not my problem. I mean, it's good for the story, but all right. Can I do the... How does this work? Okay, I can't do the share screen thing the way that I want to, but what I can do is, let's see what we got so far for stats. Of course, Seth Jarvis is 26th of the season. Aho, 38th assist of the season to make it 1-0 Carolina from at 4:29 of the first period. And penalties so far, we have Jackson Blake slashing against Anthony Sorelli, which is the penalty in which the shorthanded goal was scored. Yanni Gourde hooking against Taylor Hall. Goncalves, I believe is how that's pronounced, hooking against Shane Goss's fair. Shane Goss's fair interference against Goncalves. So those canceled each other out clearly, and we played 4-on-4 there. So ultimately, Carolina's got a pretty big net positive there, considering it was, their one shorthanded goal and they managed to kill off when they needed to and everything there. Shots on goal, 10-8. Faceoffs are dead even, 50-50, both with 0% power plays. 4 penalty minutes aside. Hits, 8-4. Tampa definitely has a more physical team here at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina evens that up as the game goes along. Block shot, 6. Giveaways and takeaways are 7-6, and then takeaways 1 for Tampa. See, I've never liked that stat just because the NHL doesn't have a standardized criteria, and that's an arena stat, so it's the same people recording it at the arenas. They don't travel around the league and doing it. It's like rink staff do that. That's something I think they could change, and they could make that criteria a little bit more specific, maybe add a few other stats to it, because that's one of the reasons that defense is so hard to quantify, is because of stuff like that. Let's see here. What else was I going to look at? Nope, that was about it. So I'll do some more of the comments here before we get back to the game. Aaliyah Yasmin says, not realistic, but how would you feel about Nico Hischier on the Canes? I would backflip. It's that guy. If there is a one-to-one replication of Sebastian Aho in this league, if there is a player you can say plays basically identical to him, it's Hischier. That would give you two of the best two-way centers and a 1A, 1B type of situation between them. And with the way that Carolina plays, the way that Rod has them play, and the way the roster is constructed, that would be one of my first choices to have as another center to go along with Aho. That would be kind of realistic to maybe someday happen. I don't see that being the case. Because, as great of a player as Jack Hughes is, and everyone knows I fucking hate him, but as good of a player as he is, Hischier's the one that has the two-way game. Hischier's the one that has all 3 zones down. That's him. Jack Hughes is a great offensive center. He creates a lot of opportunities in transition. He generates a lot of clean entries. Nico Hischier is, for lack of a better term, which is kind of funny because it also applies to his home country, he's a Swiss Army knife. He does a little bit of everything. He does a lot of everything, I should say, and he does it well. So that's the closest thing there is to Sebastian Aho in this league is Nico Hischier. Those guys play an almost identical game, in my opinion. Kaniak Sessions, LFG, let's fucking go. I agree. All right, Samuel Wallace says, the Athletic ranked Stankoven as a clear number 1 prospect last year for Dallas. They see him as a potential first-line point player to, at worst, a third-line player, and you can never have too many of those. Magneto Kane says, Seth Jarvis just interviews between periods and ESPN Plus together. Our motto, to stick together as a locker room no matter what the outside, and you analysts are always saying, love this kid. Did he actually say that? Holy shit. That's fucking awesome. I know I'm an amateur analyst, but I don't shit on my team very often. But it seems like the national media just loves to fucking talk shit about the Canes for whatever little fucking reason they can find, i.e. the whole Biznet saga that's been going on lately. Speaking of that, one thing that I am going to do in the near future, I'm going to try and put together a complete timeline of the whole Mikko Rantanen saga, and I'm going to do a stream about it so that there's this idea out there right now that he was blindsided by the trade, and we all believe that too. But at this point, we all know that's bullshit, and he was not blindsided by it. He was being disingenuous. We know that he'd already decided a week in advance to leave, and he tied up Carolina from being able to gain more assets at the deadline by being a selfish fucking prima donna prick. So again, fuck Mikko Rantanen. And the fact that all these people with these big platforms are continuing to push shit that we, who have followed this situation very closely, now know that is not true. Or we know what is true and what is not true. But what we do know now is that he was not blindsided by the trade. So they called his bluff. He didn't think that Colorado would actually trade him, and they did. So, or his representation didn't think that Colorado would trade him, and they did. But not our fucking problem. The guy negotiated in bad faith with us, knowing he wasn't going to stay. And there are still people in the media who think that he was blindsided by the trade and that Carolina swung for the fences without having any idea how it was going to work out, and that it's all bullshit. We all know it now. So it's just getting really fucking old. One of the things that I told myself when I started this whole YouTube and X and, the whole warning take thing was I'm not going to do things strictly for engagement, because when I say something, you will at least know what I think. There are certain things I keep to myself. There are certain things I paraphrase to keep from saying things that would probably get me in trouble. But as far as being honest with you guys about what is on my mind, you will always get that from me. There's a lot of people out there in the media, I think, that they change their opinion based on which way the wind is blowing and what they think is going to get them the most clicks and the most engagement. And they're very disingenuous, but that's how they maintain their audience, is by doing that. They have a revolving door of different people who agree with them and disagree with them on every single topic. I'm not like that. What I actually think, you will know. Unless I just decide to outright keep it to myself. One of those things being why I think Mikko Rantanen really didn't want to be in Carolina. I have my own thoughts on that. I have some people who have told me some things about that. But if I said what I really wanted to say, I would get, as the kids say, canceled. So I'm just going to keep my fucking mouth shut in regards to that. And honestly, it's probably going to come out one day anyway. We will see. Reese Bailey says, I think the ceiling of this team is the ECF, and that's nothing against the guys. Just tough to advance in this situation, to be honest, unless we play NYR. That's a first-round exit. Yeah, they seem to be our kryptonite in the playoffs, dude. It's just, for some odd reason, it seemed like we should have beat them both times we played them, especially the second time, and it just couldn't get it done. But, I mean, we were kind of on borrowed time in 21-22 anyway, just out of the simple fact, like, couldn't win a game on the road, couldn't score on the power play. It was only a matter of time until somebody beat us twice in a row at the end of a series. And, it's like the cracks were starting to show against Boston. Now I understand that, we didn't have the starting goaltending. Ronta and Ronta and Anderson were both hurt, but still, let's see how much time we got here. Not started again yet. All right. That Avalanche and Wild game, probably is fun to watch. Ha ha ha. And I'm watching Nate. Watching Nate just Unleashed is actually pretty cool. He was never going to get to play like that here. And, it's like, I know I was a big advocate of Nate just needs to play center. Nate just needs to have the reins off of him. But as we're seeing lately, since Rantanen's gotten out of the room and we've got guys who are good fits, everyone has to pull the cart with the way that this system works. And Nate just unfortunately was just not going to be one of those guys. As much as that sucks, because as far as God-given talent, raw talent, Nate just had more than anybody who's ever worn a Hurricane sweater. Like, as far as just skill, solid, raw skill, Nate just had more than anybody that's ever played for this team. We might never see another player that talented again. The numbers didn't always reflect what he is capable of, but in Colorado, I think they will. Levy Leteau says the advantage we have this year is that we suddenly have the easiest playoff opponent, so the guys should be a bit fresher than the opponents in later rounds. That's a distinct possibility, but at the same time, as long as they don't take anybody lightly going into the playoffs, because, for those of you who are new here, I live near the Washington metro area. Not much longer, thank God. After 7-8 years of me saying I'm going to get out of here, I'm finally getting out of here in April, and I'm taking my girlfriend and both my dogs with me. They thought they were going to walk into that series and just absolutely bitch us. And I remember telling everybody that I knew around here, if you don't beat Carolina in 5 games or less, they will drag you by your heels into a war of attrition and you will lose Game 7 on home ice. They didn't believe me. But I know there are several people here, they won't admit it, that I said that to, and they told me I was out of my mind. A lot of them I played beer league with, and some of them, like when the Caps weren't doing well, they even stopped showing up to beer league games. Like, their interest in hockey just completely fucking died if Washington wasn't doing good. And one of the biggest culprits of it, this one dude, I remember we were playing in a beer league at MedStar Capitals Iceplex, actually, and it was after the first period, the night that they raised the banner, and they were absolutely killing the Bruins. I think that they scored on them like five times in the first period. And he comes in there and he's saying, this is their home opener, mind you. He comes in the locker room that night while we're all getting ready to go skate, and he says, So how about that Caps repeat that's going to happen later this year? I'm like, bro, you're one period into the season. And yeah, I understand you brought back basically the exact same team minus Jay Beagle, but why are you so confident about it? He's like, well, look at how well they're playing already. I'm like, dude, it's been one period. And this wasn't even like hard joking sports stuff. Like this guy legitimately believed it just because of that period. And he was one of the ones I told, hey, if you don't beat Carolina, you know, when the playoffs came later, if you don't beat Carolina in 5 games, you're not going to beat them. I think that applies to this team this year as well. I really do. It's everything's going to be a war of attrition. Oh, game's back on. I'll get to the rest of the comments here in a little bit. Turn some of the volume back up here. Slaving with that good positioning again right there at the top of the circle. Oh, Blake trying to thread the needle there. Ah, damn it. Put that on net, Slavo. Damn. Blake works so well in tight, man. He just loves working in the phone booth, whether it's like taking possession of it and going up the middle like that and walking it through 3 guys, or doing one of those little quick give and go passes and everything, baiting people in just for a split second before he dishes it. He's so good at all those things. But I mean, his scouting report said as much too, because I remember reading it. And there's another example of Seth Jarvis playing above his size. Oh, thank you, Post. Seal that post. Hold it. There we go. Ooh, we got lucky there. They really got to clean this zone defense up. That entry was way too easy. There you go, KK. See, that's when KK's playing to his strengths, that's how he defends. He's not like Aho. He's not someone who just kind of like uses his stick to disrupt transition and, you know, goes in there and stick lifts somebody, poke checks him, take the puck away from him and go the other way. KK is one of those guys that defends through physicality. So pretty much anytime he initiates a board battle, he's got the size advantage and he usually wins them. So as long as he's doing that, he's good in his own end, which is where a lot of people had issues with him. So moments like that right there are really good on Kokoniemi's part to like really take his game to another level. And like I said, he's not a legitimate second line center, but he will be incredibly valuable in a middle 6 role for this team for years to come. And then later down the road, he could be a 4th line center if you still want to do that instead. You know, it'll be kind of like he's following a similar career path to Jordan Staal in certain ways. And I will do the stream about that. I got to get everything together for it. You want some water, bud? I'll get you some in a minute. Yeah, dog drank all his water. Dude's a damn camel. Yeah, Jost does not look comfortable on the wing. It's just he never has, though. When he was in the lineup as a wing earlier this season, he didn't look good there, but he's much more of a natural center, and I feel the same way about KK. I just think he's a natural center, and that's what he needs to be doing. 1 second, guys. There you go. Good job by Ghost there to take that passing lane away. Blake should have taken a look before he sent that to the middle there. There you go. Get out. There you go. Good zone exit there by Fishy. 3-on-2, and nothing came of it. He held on to it for too long. Once that line I like this Aho, Blake, and Jarvis line. They just got to find some chemistry. It's a little bit on the smaller side, but like I said, I don't really worry about that, especially when it comes to Jarvis because he plays above his size. So I'm surprised the shots are this even because it does not feel this even at all. Yeah, I was going to say they did that earlier with Gord, didn't they? Where they're getting behind our defense way too quick. They're going for those stretch passes a whole lot tonight. See, this is what I'm talking about with the zone exits and everything like that. Burns just bounces off the boards. Now this is the type of little things that they need to work on. Like off that face off there, this team is really good. They just got some small things they got to clean up. Go over here real quick. All right. Stankoven did a really good job there gapping up on Hedman. Good shift from him so far. Gaps up on him, gets through the neutral zone quick, gets a good forecheck going. See, they know Carolina tries to aggressively deny entry, and right now they're taking that extra step once they get inside the line, and they're trying to do like Tampa, that is, trying to do the entries with numbers and everything. All right, there we go. That's more like it. Forcing them to dump it in a little bit more because you're denying entries. There you go. That's much better. Oh, damn it. Stanky fumbled it there at the blue line. Cooch, get your ass back in the net. Jesus Christ. God, he makes me nervous when he does that. He doesn't do it nearly as much as he used to, but it still happens. Let's see who we got out there now. Rolex, Jankowski, and E-Rob. Okay. I actually really like this line. Get back quick. Good back check there. Gonsalves. That's how that's pronounced. Okay. I'll remember that. And that's out of play. Alrighty. Get some more of the comments here. Levy Lato says apparently Minko's fiance played a big role in him not wanting to stay in Raleigh. At least he ended up telling it to the management before the deadline and didn't BS him as much as Marner is doing. I will keep my thoughts on that to myself. Because trust me, the world does not want to know what I think. Dylan Bollinger says that's the third time the puck hits the ref and run out of momentum. And I just noticed both goalies got bears on the top of their masks. Shit, you're right. I didn't even think about that. I'm trying to get this to show there we go. Now, come on, work. Reese Bailey says, Blake seems to me like one of those players whose production will never match how good he actually is. One day he's going to deke 2 skaters and score. I just know it. Yeah, and that production can still come. He's young, he's a rookie, but there's a lot of things that he's doing right now where he's playing above his age. He's playing with a lot of maturity. And the reason that I say that is because there's a lot of situations that he's patient in, especially when he has the puck, that a lot of other players are not. Now, he made that one kind of fucked up boneheaded pass there and coughed it up in the offensive zone a couple of minutes ago. But for a player his age, he makes mistakes like that very seldom. It is not very often he does that. So that's a really, really good sign with him. Av Clark says God Coochie is saving us again. So far, yeah. Travis C, what's up, dude? Hey, buddy, how are you? It's been a while. I'm good. I still don't feel great, but I feel a lot better than I did a few days ago because, bro, when I woke up on Thursday morning, I was like, yep, here it comes. I knew it was that time of year, and I was about to get really, really sick. Dylan Bollinger says, I really like the E-Rob Rosie Janky line. I like that line a lot. That's one of those lines I think you put it together, leave it alone, and let them eat up as many minutes as you need them to eat up, and they're just going to go out there. They're going to work hard. They're going to grind. Leave that line alone. This game is fantastic so far. Loving the new guys. Yeah, ever since Sunday, like a couple of shifts in, I already noticed how different this team was. So, all righty, let's get back to it here. All right, let's clean up the zone exits here a little bit, guys. That would be a great way to get this going. And, this is another thing that annoys the shit out of me about modern hockey. I feel like this used to not be a problem before the lockout, is face-offs become a goddamn congressional fucking inquiry now instead of just drop the goddamn puck. People have been jumping face-offs since the fucking game was invented. All right, let's see here. See, again, just wrapping it around the fucking boards like that. There's a fourth time it hit the official and lost momentum, Dylan. It's a great pass there by Aho. Jarvis taking the extra second with it. They got to get a little bit more jump on this forecheck here. It's not been bad, but it can be a little bit better. Way to hold the zone there by Jarvis. Aho fans on it. Circling back now, covered by Radish. Jackson Blake, good forecheck there. He turns it back for a second. Another thing that annoys me about ESPN broadcasts, the way that they have the sound on them, it's like it amplifies everything on the ice. I know what they're going for. They're trying to go for the at the game feeling, but it just makes everything more fucked up and annoying, honestly. But then again, ESPN hasn't done much of anything right since they got the rights to hockey back. NBC had its problems, but I will take that 10 times out of 10 over this bullshit now. Alrighty. Let's see here. All right. Rolex wins the face-off. Okay, that's a little bit more like it for a set play off the face-off. A little bit sloppy, but good zone retention there by Ghost. Let's see what Morrow's got here. All right, delayed penalty. Rolex holding on to it there. Aho to Gossespierre walking the line here. I love watching him do that. Be patient with it, boys. Be patient with it. All right, never mind. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Lilleberg for hooking. Yep, that's pretty blatant. All right, let's see how we do this here. Fishy drops it back to go. Okay, that was good entry there. A little bit unconventional from what a lot of teams are doing now and from what they've been trying lately, but it's working better than them trying to do a controlled entry with numbers at this point. You know, it's like if they just like shoot it to the other end of the ice and have somebody there to be able to beat out the icing call and do that more often, I'm good with it. All right, then just go in there and go get it. That's working better. AJ is right. That's been working better for them at the moment. But I mean, that's also part of the rationale of Stankoven is to improve the entries. Fishy, that was, or Jarvis, that was a bad place to give that up. Good job, Ghost. Disrupted it just enough. All right, up the ice with numbers. Let's see. We got Taylor Hall. Pops hit it with the cannon there. Let's see if he's got another one in him. Shoot that. Fuck. Most of the second units out there, Aho's still out there, though. He hadn't had the chance to get off the ice. Aho's pulling Ovechkin, just staying out there for the whole power play. All right, and that's the end of that one. I'm sorry, man. The second unit has looked better than the first one lately, but the first one's had some personnel changes, so we'll give them a break for the moment. But I really, really like how the second unit has looked lately. I want them to get some more minutes, i.e., that situation right there. Yeah, I want to see the second unit get some more minutes, or rebuild the first unit with everybody from the second unit and put Aho out there and take somebody else off. I don't know. I really want to see Sean Walker try it on the power play, though. I think he would be excellent at that. All right, let's see. Get some of the comments here. Levy Lateau says if the centers jump the face off so late that the linesman already dropped the puck, just call it a good anticipation and let it play out. Nobody is here to watch the refs. Yeah, I agree. It's people have been trying to jump face off since the beginning of time. It's the same thing. Like you ever watch a football game and it's like they're constantly calling people for false starts and everything. And I'm like, in football, I kind of understand that because there's like such a great emphasis on playing it when you're supposed to off the line of scrimmage and all that other type of stuff and everything. But if it's just good anticipation, if it's just a smidgen before the puck actually gets dropped, just let it play. How much does it really affect it? People have been cheating on face-off since the game was invented. Ballinger says that was much better. Yes, it was. Reese Bailey says TBL's defensive positioning is phenomenal. Yeah, because they run more of a zone hybrid type of a man, or I think it's a man zone hybrid type of defense or something like that. I need to read about it more, but it's more of a hybrid style as opposed to the straight man on man coverage that Rod likes to run, and it's really, really effective. But yeah, from now on, I'm calling Roslovic Rolex. That's his new nickname as far as I'm concerned. That's why I've been calling him that the entire stream so far. Yeah, I think I'm going to nix it after this period, guys. I'm getting tired. Oh, broken stick. Morrow went for the lob there, and it didn't work out so well. Let's get back quick here, guys. There we go. Good quick transition play. Oh, Jesus. He makes me nervous every time he does that. Slavin stepped up good there at the red line to keep that from being a clean entry. Burns on point. There you go. Who was that? Was that Jackson Blake that did that? Good play. Good poke check there. Here comes Jarvis. And holding on to it. Damn it. Fishy couldn't settle it down. I really like this line. Step up on him. There you go. Good stick by Pops. All right, see, this looks a lot better at the moment, this cycle that they got going on there. They're using the boards a whole lot, but they're winning the board battles and getting the puck back. See, that I don't get nervous when Chatfield makes plays like that, like when he pinches or when he tries to jump to get a loose puck in the air because he's got the wheels to get back. Damn it. Jeez, Vasilevsky is still nasty. There you go. Good transition denial there. Martinuk back the other way. Holy shit. I guess we're just going to play pinball tonight. All of a sudden, he's Wayne Gretzky and he scores. All right. They don't ask how, they ask how many. I sure as hell didn't see that shit happening, though. That reminds me of that one that Paul I know it's a little bit different. It kind of reminds me of the one that Paul Stastny scored in the playoffs a couple of years ago against the Islanders. That's what happens. Hard work can beat goalies like this because you don't beat goalies like Vasilevsky with clean looks a whole lot anyway. Goals like that are your friend in situations like that. Hold it, Cooch. This team just looks so different now with Mikko gone. Like, Rod's a pretty stoic guy. Like, you know, it's like he's kind of hard to read. You can kind of tell when he's pissed off. But even in a game that they're winning, he's got a pretty calm and pretty reserved demeanor. But honestly, the vibes around him, he even seems like he's a little bit like feeling a little bit better now. Like, this is insane, like how different this team is. It's like they've not played a horrible game, but they've definitely not played their best. But there's been times they've been up 2-0 and not been playing really well, and I get worried. I don't feel that way about this team. This is just very different. All right, let's see, KK. There you go. The kid skates like a baby giraffe, but damn, he can do all kinds of other shit really well. See, now it's like we've got the forecheck coming in waves type of thing going on here. There you go. Much better. Now they're really starting to build a game here, and which is great because they're up 2-0 as it is, but wrapping it around the boards, Jarvis goes in there, Initiate a board battle, win a board battle, maintain possession, maintain the zone. They're really playing to their strengths right now, and they've been playing like this basically since the trade deadline. I know that's only been one full game and almost 2/3 of another, but you can just tell how different everything is. Like I said, I have my issues with some of the stuff about this system, but, when it works, it fucking works, and it's doing it right now. It's hard to maintain, but when it works, it fucking works. Him in. There you go. When was the last time Tampa had a shot? Blake looking for the seam pass. Loose, loose, loose. Keeping it in. Come on, Unk. Don't let him out anyway. There you go. Slavin works it at the point over to Jarvis. Jarvis back to Slavin. Slavin doesn't activate himself and jump in on the play very much like he did just then, but when he does, he's really good at it. He's a very low-risk, high-reward type of guy when it comes to doing stuff at the offensive blue line. That's part of what makes him such a great player. God, why can't we do this on the power play? Holy shit. Great sequence. All right, let me get to some of these comments here during the commercial break. Levy Leto says Rolex is a really funny nickname and fits so well. That's what I'm calling him from now on. I'm calling him Roll, even if and when, and I'm gonna say that I unfortunately believe it's when Roslovic goes to play somewhere else, I'm still gonna call him that. I will always call him that. If I had made the mistake of getting a 96 sweater, you know how they're doing the free nameplate replacement, I probably would have gotten Rolex put on mine. Straight up. I might never have worn it, but I've done it. Dylan Vollinger says at least Cucci is a good skater. Yes, that's true. He can make up for a lot of his own mistakes because of how good of a skater he is, but still. Av Clark says, holy shit, did the Canes hit these shots? Miko was really a damn cancer or something, but holy fuck. Yeah. It's just like this team is just night and day different since that happened. It's like I remember in the post-game pressers after the last game before the trade deadline, there was like this general vibe that I misinterpreted it when they talked to Aho and they talked to Rod, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, it sounds like they're just ready for 3:00 tomorrow to get here, because I was under the impression that Miko was just waiting for the trade deadline to pass so that he didn't get shipped off somewhere and was already locked into a contract if he was staying. And then it turned out that it was the opposite. I guess they were just ready for him to be gone, which really sucks because Aho and Miko are good friends, but I don't know how this affected their relationship. I don't know anything about them on a personal level. I don't stalk them like some of these weird Instagram puck bunnies on here. But yeah, they got past that and they're going to be a lot better for it. They really are. Levy Leto says, I love the energy Stankoven has brought to the dad line. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I wanted Jackson Blake tried out there, is I felt like it kind of would have done the same thing, but Stankoven is doing exactly like what I think Blake would have done had he been on that line, and it works. So, all right, game's coming back on here. Reese Bailey says the amount of puck battles the Canes just won was nuts. Yeah, and when they play like that, they can't lose. Or it's much more unlikely for them to lose, I should say. You can lose whatever, you can lose any game, but when they're locked in like that and retaining the offensive zone and winning those board battles, then they're going to spend a lot more time down there and they're going to generate a lot more chances. And then another thing about it is, you noticed on that last sequence there before the commercial break, was when those shifts start out like that, those really hardworking shifts where you're doing a lot of grinding and a lot of board battles, you'll notice as time went on with that shift that it became less about board battles and Carolina just took more and more control. And then after that, they started getting a lot more clean looks, a lot more crisp passes, a lot more high danger shots, because they started out by wearing down Tampa in their zone. And, they basically made them tired, and then they had their way with them. They didn't score. It was an everything but score sequence, as Trip Tracy would say. But that is the upside of the way that these guys play, that the way that this system works. So it's kind of like that. Tampa's trying to push back here, though. There you go, Pops. Good hit. Oh, shit. Good job, Stankoven. Get back there. There we go. That'll work. Second period, boys. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Long change is a bitch. We get somewhat of a change here. Nope, not yet. Thankfully, Slavin's out there. There we go. Jankowski's skating is so much like Svechnikov. He's got like that type. There you go, E-Rob beating out that icing. Where's that douchebag that was talking shit about E-Rob the other day? He may not put up a ton of points, but he does shit like that. Ah. Is the net off? Nope, it's still there. Jankowski and E-Rob setting up that layered net front there is really good. Perbix and Jankowski doing some jousting there. And icing. All right, I'm going to grab a water real quick here. While I'm at it, I'm also going to give my dog some water because he's sitting there staring at me. Y'all can't see him on the camera, but I got you, buddy. Hold on a sec. I got you. I got you. Go. Come on, Rolex. Rolex goal. Let's go. Fuck yeah. That's the icing on the cake. Fuck Mikko Rantanen. Not the icing on the cake on the game, the icing on the cake on fuck Mikko Rantanen. They still got work to do. They ain't over yet. Hard work by Taylor Hall made that play happen there. He's such a good fit. Carolina's, I think they're going to keep him, and they absolutely should. Beautiful. See, like, Carolina didn't play very well, I thought, in the first period. They got a little bit better as the second period went along, and now they're in control of the game. Bend but don't break. Come here, buddy. Come here. I got about the greatest dog you could ask for. You're a good boy. Good pinch by Walker here. He does that better than anybody on the team, if you ask me. Sean Walker does. All right. At the end of the second period, it is the Carolina Hurricanes without Mikko Rantanen 3, the Tampa Bay Lightning with Andrei Vasilevsky. Nada. All right. Av Clark says, the dad line adopted Stank and Jarvie growed up. Yeah, Jarvis aged out of being with Jordan. Av Clark says Rod's mood probably better because he ain't coaching a player that don't want to be there. On top of that, a player that didn't want to be there that could have potentially taken up a very large percentage of the cap for nearly a decade. So, bullet dodged. Dylan Bollinger says, where has his team been since January 24th, trying to cater to Mikko Rantanen, and now we know that was a bad fucking idea. Reese Bailey says, the system at its best, hockey you see in movies, just phenomenal to watch. Yeah, I agree. When the system is playing to its strengths and everybody is pulling the cart, it's much better to watch. I'm still worried that it has some issues come playoff time, but hopefully they'll figure it out this time around. I just want them to win at least a couple of games in the conference finals. If that happens, you basically all but guarantee that Nikolai Ehlers or Brock Besser or comes to Carolina and maybe takes a discount. You get a second line center, you go from there. Dylan Bollinger says, yeah, that fourth line gets even more chemistry. It might end up even being one of our most dangerous lines. It'll definitely be one of our most useful, even if it doesn't put up a ton of numbers. But Taylor Hall worked his ass off to make that goal happen for Rolex. Av Clark says, we don't need a superstar confirmed. When everybody's playing like this, a superstar would just be a luxury, not a necessity. And honestly, I consider Sebastian Aho a superstar. I consider Jacob Slavin a superstar. But anybody who's watched this channel long enough knows that I'm a huge nerd for really good defense and really good 200-foot players. I'm one of those guys that, like, when everybody else was rocking Eric Stahl sweaters, I was wearing Tuomo Ruutu. There's just many examples of that. Like, I was one of the first people to say that Jacob Slavin was going to be special. That of me and, the Hurricanes fans that I knew and associated with. And it didn't take long before that became true. Dylan Bollinger says Hall started that goal. Yeah, he did. With that hard-working play in the neutral zone to regain possession, that was totally on him. Evan Smith says Rolex. Yeah, we're going to make that a thing now. I need everybody's help. We're going to make that a thing. That John Jack Roslovic is now going to be known as Rolex. And I don't think he's complaining about that because that's a cool fucking nickname. Like, it really is. Dylan Bollinger says, yeah, this is a completely different team with people still building chemistry. Yeah, a few games from now when everyone's really got acclimated to each other, so long as Rod leaves the blender in the dumpster, we're going to be fine. Ali Yasmin says, what do you think Hall's contract looks like? Something along the lines of 3 years by $3 million, I would imagine. Maybe a little bit more money since the cap's going up, but I think 3 by 3 is about the sweet spot for him. I mean, something along those lines. So we'll see. Who wouldn't want to win and play here, LMFAO? Well, I know a guy in Dallas who didn't want to, but if we somehow, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but if we somehow hold up a Stanley Cup before Dallas does, bruh, like, we're going to be like, okay. I mean, granted, Mikko already got one, but you only get so many chances at it. There's very few people who can say they got one, and there's very few people who can say they have more than one. But then there's guys who aren't the greatest players that still get a ton of them, like Patrick Maroon, just because, like, he was always an asset to a team at the deadline and everything, and he was always an asset to teams that needed that extra depth player, that experienced guy that just goes out there and wins board battles and plays physical, and when it turns into a war of attrition, someone who can keep everybody else around him going. There's players like that have a ton of Stanley Cups, and there's a reason for that. Av Clark, let me clarify, mainstream superstars. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because a lot of people look at some of these guys. One of the reasons why Jacob Slavin, for example, is so underappreciated, not everybody has time to sit down and watch games. So a lot of times they go and watch condensed games. They go and watch highlights. Or if you're scrolling through social media or scrolling through YouTube and you see content about hockey, especially like stuff that occurs on the ice, like highlights and stuff, most of the time it's goals. And I would say the second most frequent thing you see is probably big saves. The third most frequent thing is probably big hits. But very seldomly, at least in comparison to all those things, do you see somebody like, a bunch of good defensive plays? Like, how often do you see a highlight reel of Jacob Slavin other than like, I mean, I know I've uploaded a couple myself, but there's some other people who put some out there. Or how often do you see like, people like breaking down Adam Pellick or Jonas Brodin, Essa Lindell? The list goes on of those guys that are just, they do the little things well and they're very fundamentally sound in the game just because they don't put up a ton of points and they don't play in a particularly flashy manner. They don't play with a ton of flair. They don't do a bunch of fancy shit. There is no world where Trevor Zegras should be more famous than Jacob Slavin, but that's the one we live in. J-Dub says, please hit the like button. It's free and it helps a lot. Yes, please. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Dylan Bollinger says, I think Rolex, Foss, Yost are definitely not going to be on the Canes next season. Yeah, Rolex is, and I said this before his name became Rolex, he's going to price himself out just because he does put up a decent amount of goals and everything. And he's a very good player. He's, I think of Roslovic as a solid middle six winger on a team that needs it really badly, which is why we signed him when we did. I don't think that he's really a natural center, even though that's the position he was drafted at, and he did play center in Columbus for a good amount of the time he was there. I think with Roslovic, he's going to have to go to a team that's not rebuilding, but maybe on the back end of a rebuild that's getting near taking that next step. So I could see him going to somewhere like Buffalo, Ottawa, like a team that's on the cut line now, maybe back to Columbus. I doubt that one, but just for an example. Av Clark says, Aho, Jarvis, Slavin are superstars in my eyes. I agree. Absolutely. Especially Aho and Slavin. And Jarvis has much more time. He's got 7 years after after this year on his contract. So there will be time for him to really, really establish himself as that type of player. Levy Lateau says, I really think that a big reason Aho and Slavin are not being spoken of as superstars, they took team-friendly deals on top of defense being such an undervalued by a lot of hockey fans. Yes, that's also true. One of the things that I did notice about a lot of these guys that take pay cuts, when someone who doesn't take a pay cut is in the media, it's either for really good things or for really bad things. Like, let's just say, for example, I'm not saying that this would ever actually happen. Let's say Austin Matthews goes 15 games without a point. You're never going to hear the end of it. He will be the front page of hockey media for that. However, if Austin Matthews puts up 25 points in 15 games, he's the front page of hockey media. Connor McDavid, no matter what he's doing, he's one at the forefront of hockey media. And that's just the way it is. And not to mention the market that we're in, which a lot of people still continue to think is just some hick redneck Southern market with a bunch of stupid fans, i.e. someone who's going to own a minority stake in a team in Greensboro who doesn't have the greatest opinion of some Hurricanes fans, but that's neither here nor there. If I get on that, I won't shut up about it. So I'm just not going to get started. Av Clark says, me personally, Brock, and then pick up Bennett, Granlund, hopefully. Yeah, something like that. As far as a second-line center goes, actually, that kind of ties into this right here. Ali Yasmin, dream acquisition for the offseason. The generic answer would be Marner, and I would not be upset about getting him as long as we didn't overpay to get him. The realistic one, I think, is Ehlers. And I think he would fit pretty seamlessly. Who I really, really would like Carolina to get. There's two players, and I've listed them both on the me dreaming about it list. Dylan Larkin or Tage Thompson would be the two I would love to have in Carolina the most. Neither one of those will happen. If I had to pick one that was maybe slightly more possible, I would say Tage Thompson. But I don't think Buffalo or Detroit would ever give either one of those players up. So that would be who I would like to get, because I think that both of those would complement the style of play here very well and bring that extra offensive touch, because I'm curious to see what Tage Thompson will do with a really good team built around him. I think he's very underrated, and he's one of those guys that I think that he should have been on Team USA, and he is actually a much better player than what has been shown specifically over the last year and part of last season, because he doesn't have a very good team around him. One of the reasons why I do my best not to, and this is something I have to credit Adam Gold with saying as well. One of the things that Adam Gold was saying on his show one night, and I only watch it on occasion, it just kind of depends on what I've got going on. He recounted not all too long ago in the grand scheme of things, and I was guilty of this too. A lot of people were blaming Eric Stahl for every little thing wrong with the Hurricanes, and that was also me. And it wasn't until hindsight after he was gone that I realized the team that was built around him was not good. And the future did not pan out for, Zach Boychuk didn't translate at the NHL level. Jordan Stahl coming in helped, but didn't really take us over the hump. Don't even get me fucking started on Alexander Semin. That might be the one guy I hate more than Noah Hannafin. Ryan Murphy, couldn't stand him either. There were just so many players that were brought in, and none of them panned out for Carolina. So I'm trying to be the same way about it with players now, particularly Aho. And this is something that Adam Gold said in regards to Aho. Adam said he wanted to make sure he utilized his platform to make sure that things like that were said about Aho, that he had a way to counteract that. And I'm kind of the same way about it, but about more than just Aho. I might have a couple of you unfollow me that are relatively new to me after I say this, but I'm going to stand by it. I'm a really big Tony DeAngelo fan. And it's not a political thing. If people think that it's strictly based on politics, his sweater and my Spencer Strider jersey are hanging next to each other in that closet over there. I like players for different reasons. With him, it was the scrappiness, it was the chirping, and if you haven't noticed, I really like people who are really good skaters. That's one of the reasons that I like Sean Walker so much, and I think that if Nikishin doesn't wear 21, Sean Walker's probably going to be my next sweater after I get my Goss spare one. And people absolutely accosted me for liking Tony DeAngelo. I'm used to that, that's fine, but it's like there's been many a times that has happened. So that's my whole thing with it. But Tage Thompson is one of those guys that if he had a good team built around him, people would realize how good he really is. So just to put a cap on that thought right there. Levy Leto says, I love Granlund. He's a national hero in Finland since his Michigan move in the World's 2011 against Russia. I think he's maybe a bit too old for the Canes core unless he signs a shorter deal. Yeah, for someone like that, I wouldn't want to sign him to a long-term thing. That was one of the reasons why before the trade deadline, I was talking about getting someone like Ryan O'Reilly, who still had a little bit of term left, would be perfect, because that would give us a couple of seasons to sort out the second-line center issue, and then grab someone after that to go on the depth chart between Aho and Kokoniemi. What would be really great is if there was someone on the depth chart to go above Aho. But like I've said before, there's only 8 to 10 players in the world on that list, and none of them are available. Dylan Bollinger says, I think the most realistic signing for us this offseason is Brock B. Yeah. Brock Besser would be great. Now, also, those of you saying Brock in the chat, please verify if you're talking about Brock Nelson or Brock Besser. I would not mind Brock Nelson coming to Carolina at all. But again, I would definitely like for that to be a shorter-term deal if you go get someone like Brock Nelson. Besser, on the other hand, I'm okay with locking up for 6 or 7 years. I know he's got a little bit of an injury history, but I don't think that that's been as bad as it was before. So let's see how much game's not back on yet. All right. Evan Smith says, F Biznet. I'll say this. There's a lot of times where Biznet says things that I completely agree with. For example, he said some stuff about Connor Bedard out there playing pond hockey, and people intentionally took his comments and put him in a negative light because Connor Bedard is like, people are already worshiping him, and I don't think he's really proven anything yet. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a great player. He is, but people are like pumping his tires way too quick. And all the point Biznett was trying to make was he was showing that there were some fundamentally unsound things, particularly on the defensive side of the game, that Bedard was doing. That's all it was. He made some really good points about it. And he said he was out there playing pond hockey to, as part of this summarization of Bedard's game, this analysis of Bedard's game he was doing. And I agreed with him. I remember even quoting something he said and saying he was right about it. Because Biznett was a fourth liner. Everyone knows that. He was a grinder. He played a defensive game, and he went out there and he fought people. He was held to a completely different standard as a player. That's why when people are holding up, making posts showing how many points Bedard has versus how many points Biznett has, I don't think that's a fair argument. That would be like me screenshotting Chipper Jones' stats and putting them next to Greg Maddox's stats, those of you who follow baseball at all, and saying, oh, look, Chipper Jones had a higher career batting average than Greg Maddux. Well, no shit, Greg Maddux was a fucking pitcher. It's almost that same type of dynamic. It's almost that different when you're talking about the difference between quote unquote generational talent, top line center on an original six team that's in the middle of a very painful rebuild versus fourth line forward who played for the Arizona Coyotes. That's not worth comparison, and you're not flexing on anybody by saying, oh, well, Bedard has more points than Biznett. Okay, that's fine. But what he pointed out about that was great. But there's other times where he says other shit that I'm kind of like, bro, what the fuck? And the recent exchange in regards to the Rantanen thing is one of those. So one of the things I do respect about Biz, though, is that he doesn't really mince his words. I just don't understand where his thought process is sometimes. But to give a really good example of a time where I really, really had to agree with him, the Bedard thing, he was 110% right about that. I'll give him that 10 times out of 10. A lot of the reason why people got to where they were practically worshiping Connor Bedard is because the media told them to. They didn't take the time to look at it and see, maybe this kid has this, and this wrong with his game. They just automatically thought the media said he is the next big thing, and they went with it. Well, that's been said about other players before. They said that about Nail Yakupov, and we see how his career turned out. They said a lot of there was a lot of high praise for Philip Zadina, and Montreal Canadiens fans were melting when Kotkaniemi was taken third overall instead of him. Where's Philip Zadina at? Kotkaniemi, for all of his faults, he's still a serviceable NHL player on a competitive team. So, and we're seeing him play when he's playing to his strengths, like he is tonight, when he's playing in the type of role that he should be in, when he's out there playing with other guys who have size, speed, and are physical, he's a much more effective player. Trying to make him into a second-line center is trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. But letting him just be a guy you can move up the lineup if you absolutely have to because of injuries, but letting him settle into that role as a depth center, that's a good thing. And whether it's a second-line center, or third-line center, or first line, just pick him up at Sam's Club. If you still get a serviceable middle six winger out of that offer sheet, middle six center out of that offer sheet that you appear to have with Kotkaniemi, it was fucking worth it. Because you just gave up a bunch of unquantifiable assets for something that you could actually quantify. So that worked out, if you ask me. Av Clark says Brock probably the most realistic because hockey media came out and said we were trying to flip the picks for him, but no time. Yeah, I think Brock Besser coming here could very, very realistically happen. I'd have to look at cap space for some other teams because I could see Minnesota maybe being interested in him because he's from there. And they definitely love their homegrown boys. Look at how they absolutely love Brock Faber, and I don't blame them. I liked Brock Faber before a lot of people really talked about him a whole lot. And now people are recognizing, Brock Faber is basically, I'm going to upset some people when I say this, but I mean it. Brock Faber is everything that people said that Brady Shea was. And I'm not saying that Brady Shea is not a good player. I'm just saying Brock Faber is that guy, that really good two-way game that's super defensively responsible, but also generates a lot on the offensive side of things and he does it very, very frequently. It's like one of the few criticisms that I've ever heard of Slavin that was remotely valid, but it's still not valid. Oh, he doesn't chip in enough offense. Brock Faber is like Jacob Slavin plus offense in a lot of ways. He's not better than Slavin on the defensive side of things. I don't think he ever will be, but he'll come close. So, but if you're talking about a two-way defenseman who defends really well and puts up a ton of points, Brock Faber is that guy. Evan Smith says, love Tony. He was good in the playoffs last year. Honestly, like, I never thought Tony had a legitimately bad stretch of games with Carolina. It's like, if they could have kept him like the first time, and I'm not saying that like I don't like Burns, because I do, but I understand the biggest reason they wanted to bring Burns in was like, one, you add a little bit more experience, a little bit more offense, a little bit more size, but also being able to keep someone on the penalty kill with Slavin all the time. So that way you're not having to rotate different pairs out there for penalty killing. You just have the same guys go out, and there's fluidity in the changes and everything like that. So it's like you have Slavin and Burns go out, and then you have Orlov and Chatfield go out. Whereas when you had Tony on the team, you couldn't put him out there in the penalty kill, and it was jumble up the pairs during penalty kills. So I understand the rationale behind it, but Tony was not nearly as bad defensively as people, and this goes for a lot of offensive defensemen. Tony was not nearly as bad defensively as people made it out to be, because of, again, this is one of those things, the media told them that they shouldn't like him. They went and they picked the smallest little things they could find that were wrong in his game and held it against him. Because if Tony DeAngelo had the same skill set as, say, Jalen Chatfield, they would have bitched that he didn't score enough. It was just a very, very fucked up personality conflict a lot of people have with Tony. And the thing that they were holding against him was, one, we don't know what he actually said, and two, he was a teenager. It was a decade ago, and they were still holding it against him. And I think that that's just juvenile and stupid. I mean, I don't hold shit against people for what they said to me 5 minutes ago in a lot of cases. I can't imagine hold on to something like that for 10 years. Like, it's just fucking weird to me. Dylan Bollinger says, I mean, I'd much rather have Ehlers. Ehlers would be a perfect fit. Like, talk about somebody who would basically know what to do on day one. Ehlers is that guy. Levy Leto says, I fully expect Tulsky to enrage some people with obscenely aggressive offer sheets this offseason. I could see him doing that. I really could. Oh, I missed one here. Sorry. Reese Bailey. If Carolina could offer sheet someone like Marco Rossi, that would be insane. That would be insane. I'd be all right with that. And as aggressive as, and what Carolina did with Rantanen, and a lot of people still view the Rantanen flip as damage control. I kind of do too, because there's three other players on that team I would have rather have had than Logan Stankoven. Not saying that he's not a great fit, but Jason Robertson's one of my favorite non-Hurricanes, and I think he would have been exactly what this team needed. For example, Wyatt Johnston also, Rupe Hentz. If is the game back on? Okay, we'll get back to this, but I'll finish this thought real quick. Carolina might have frightened people in the trade market with what they did, and people might resort to offer sheets more now as a way of not worrying about things like that happening to them. Because even if you look at the Rantanen for Stankoven trade as strictly damage, shit. Snipe. If you look at that as strictly damage control, it's still probably scared a lot of teams that would rather just offer sheet people or lock them up in free agency, as opposed to trying to improve the team at the deadline or shortly before the deadline or anything like that. So I could see offer sheets becoming more frequent, because they're going to be a little gun shy about the trade deadline from now on. Burns, you got to gap up quicker than that, buddy. All right. I guess I'm staying until the end now. Oh, the officials are talking about something. Dylan Bollinger says, I'd much rather have Ehlers. Yeah, we talked about that one already. Av Clark says, I don't know why, but if the Leafs keep Marner, I would love for us to offer Nyes. He's a physical player in 22. Nyes is someone I think would be a good fit here. I don't think that they'll give him up either. I think that they're going to get both of them signed. I'm wondering what's going to happen with Marner. Like, that could go either way. But I also didn't expect Mikko Rantanen to leave Colorado. And I don't know anything about Marner as a person. I don't know if he's a diva. I'm not going to say that he is written, because I don't really know anything about the guy. A lot of people assume he's a diva based on his appearance, and I think that's kind of dumb. But I'm I don't know enough about Marner or any of these guys for that matter at a personal level to, realistically say, hey, are they going to actually are they going to be a diva? Are they going to be this way about it, be that way about it? I don't know. So I am curious to see how things shake out with him in Toronto. Dylan Bollinger says brutal turnover by Natchez. Leaving the zone leads to a 2-on-0 for Minnesota, and Zuccarello makes it 1-0. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Zuccarello is someone that if he was younger, I would have liked to have seen him in Carolina. Definitely a player that would have fit the way that they play here. Levy Leto says the number of scoring chances these refs have created tonight. I'm guessing from not getting out of the way and getting hit with the puck a whole bunch. And then one last one here. Ali Yasmin, can offer sheets work on UFAs? I'm not very educated on these issues. Sorry. No, but you can make them a really nice offer in free agency with some deferred salary and maybe get it done that way. All right. Morrow got back there. I love KK, man, but his skating is brutal. Slavin angling off Braden Point there, and that's when you have a player that's as good as Braden Point, that's one of the best things you can do a lot of times. Good stick there by Jackson Blake, getting on his horse after the fact. Now you have Jarvis and Aho in there helping out with the forecheck. Tampa back the other way. Slavin stepping up the blue line. Point goes for it. Slavin gets a stick in there, disrupts it just enough. Easy save for Kochekov. Ryan McDonough back on entry. Smart play here, Fishy. There you go. Jarvis working the... For only having one function in shoulder, that Jarvis motherfucker can play hockey. Holy shit. I reckon Carolina was thinking that maybe that was possibly goaltender interference, but I wouldn't challenge that. Then again, it's like you never know how it's going to go nowadays. All right, got that caught up there. Dylan Bollinger says Nikishin would have dropped him. Burns, come on. Yeah, he probably would have, but that's one of the things that we do have to watch out for with Nikishin. As aggressive as his gap control is, the hits that he threw on people overseas will not be as easy to execute here. Significantly better players, on average, significantly better at skating. So a lot of the hit, that's one thing that we do have to temper our expectations about with Nikishin a little bit. It's going to be a lot harder for him to lay some of those bone crushing. He'll still do it very frequently, but as much as he did in the KHL, maybe not. He's still going to be a great player, though, and the net's the same size, and he's still got that wicked-ass shot of his to go with it. And once he really adjusts to the NHL game and he's got a really good partner like Jalen Chatfield is who I imagine is going to be playing with him, it's going to be really, really good. All right. Dylan Bollinger says Morrow would Slavin then. Yeah, probably. Or maybe Walker would Slavin, which I would love to see, but I just don't see any way that they can make that work with the players they have, because Walker serves as the safety valve for Gostisbehere. Morrow, I don't think, could do that, at least not yet. But in the future, I would not mind seeing Walker with Slavin. Sean Walker is probably the most underrated guy on this team, if you ask me, at the moment. All right, ozone draw here. A good clean win by Slavin. Speaking of Sean Walker, walks it to the middle. Ooh, very nice deceptive shot through traffic. Holy fucking shit. Did he hear me? Let's fucking go. I cannot believe I was just talking about how underrated Sean Walker is and that he scores a fucking goal. Pretty fucking beautiful one at that. Oh, disgusting. Look at that edge work. I was so happy when we signed this guy. This is why. North Carolina, come on and raise up. That was absolutely disgusting. That's just so funny. I was just talking about Sean Walker and then that happens. I really am surprised that happened. Levy Lato says now this is Hurricanes hockey. Yes, it is. Insane shot and great net front by Martinook. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Gossesbear got a shot through traffic there too. That helps a whole lot. It seems like they're getting more shots through in a lot of cases where they were getting blocked before, but like now they're really, really working really well. Getting a lot more pucks on net, or at least getting them through, because the worst thing that could happen is a shot get blocked. At least if a shot gets through, then you can go recover it and make something out of it. Rolex going for it again, holds it up. Ah, damn it. Here's the part where the E-Rob haters come out. See, look, he's not that good. No, offense is not what he's there for. Any bonus of it you get is just good to have with him. But see, I love this patience right here too. But yeah, the net front is a great thing to have, because no goalie is immune to blindness. And when you're playing against goalies as good as Hellebuck and Vasilevsky and everything like that, the best thing you can do is try to stop them from seeing the puck. It's if they don't see shots coming at them, you get tips in there, and you do things that's the way you beat the best goalies. You don't beat them with a ton of clean looks and a ton of like throwing pucks right into their chest and everything. You beat them by taking their eyesight away, getting bounces at odd angled shots, net front presence, tips, deflections, all that type of stuff. Evan Smith says they are so much better now that the trade deadline drama is over. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to in the future. Is the core of this team is locked up. You're going to have you're probably going to have a prospect or two make the team next year, depending on who's still here. But we're not going to have all this bullshit going down at the trade deadline next year. Nikishin's not going anywhere. Sean Walker's not going anywhere. Chatfield Slavin's not going anywhere. Aho's not going anywhere, for example. Like, most of this team will have it in their minds that they are not going anywhere. So everything is going to be fine. They already know that. So next year it'll be even better. Dylan Bollinger says it took him a little while, but once he settled in, Walker has been very good. Yeah, defensemen usually take longer to adapt than anybody other than goalies, obviously. And Walker, like, I've been really impressed with him from day one. I think next season you'll see 35, 40 points out of him now that he's not going to worry about adapting. He can just show up and play. I really think that about him. Reese Bailey says Walker is one of the best D-man contracts in the league as well. Yeah, 5 years for $18 million. That's a damn good deal for him. That line again, E-Rob, Janky, and Rolex. Yes, absolutely. Jankowski flips puck perfectly, causing a 2-on-1. Yeah, and then he's got the motor to go after it right after the fact, too, and get up ice real quick. That also helps. Dylan Bollinger says, I wouldn't be surprised if Robinson is re-signed. Janky got another year, but Rosie is gone, so who replaces him on that line? That's a good question. That depends on what goes on coming out of camp, and which rookies you have make the team, who you sign in free agency, all that type of stuff, who you potentially bump up or down the depth chart. So that's something we just have to see at the time. Good save by Cooch, reading that through traffic. Good cross-ice pass there by Kokiniemi after holding up after the blue line there. Yost going to work. Ah. Ugh. All right, boys. Let's have a good finish here. Because I'm getting tired. I'm going to go to sleep right after this. Because I actually managed to drag myself into work today, even though I did not feel like going. I was about to call out again. I'm like, no, I ain't dying that bad. Yeah, I really like this line with E-Rob, Rolex, and Jankowski. Jankowski was a sneaky good pickup. Jankowski good on the back check there, ties him up amongst the boards. Let's see. Sheffield started a board battle up there too. Chatfield chips it off the boards. Walker. Tampa's going to really push here in a second. Good job to read that bounce there, coach. And also, Dylan, I think that Robinson is staying. I think he's going to get a contract kind of like Carrier's. I would give that to him immediately. Between that and Taylor Hall, 3x3, and if you can get Rolex to stay, that would be great. He can take a pay cut. He already got his damn watch. Levy Lato says next year you can just go to the guys and say that the plan is to get at least 2 of the next 5 Stanley Cups with all the guys in the room. Totally possible. Absolutely possible. The one, if they can solve the second line center position and get a goalie, I don't think they need much of anything else. If you add Ehlers into that, all the better. But if they can find a way to pry Tage Thompson, look, I really like Andrei Svechnikov, but if you can pry Tage Thompson out of Buffalo and he's part of what has to go back the other way with everything you have in the system as far as wingers who can potentially produce, I think you have to consider doing that. And I really, really hate to say that because if I don't like a player, I won't buy their sweater and I won't buy it for anyone I care about. I bought my dad a Svechnikov White Whalers sweater last year. My dad would really hate to see Svechnikov go, and so would I. My dad more than me. But if that gets Tage Thompson here, you got to give it some thought. And I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying it would take a player like him to get Buffalo to potentially cough him up because they're trying to get to where they take that next step and start making the playoffs. So they're not going to want strictly prospects. They're not going to strictly want picks. They're not going to want just futures. They're going to want a roster player. And I think that's the only one that Carolina could potentially be willing to give up to move the needle in a trade like that. Dylan Bollinger says, unlike the other 6'4" guy, Janke uses his size to his advantage and isn't afraid to use it. Yeah, no, he's definitely physical. Ali Yasmin says, I would hate to lose Svech, but if we got something good in return, there's very few people I'd be willing to give Svechnikov up for. Very few people. Tage Thompson, Dylan Larkin, Brady Tkachuk are some names that come to mind, and anybody else I would potentially include him for is 110% not available. So I don't see that happening. When Dylan Cousins, I was hoping Carolina would get Dylan Cousins. He was another one of those guys that was on the list of, hey, maybe we could get him. But, Ottawa had to give up Josh Norris to get him. So, and Josh Norris, a lot of people thought that he was going to get traded during the offseason. So we'll see. Dylan Bollinger says Boston beat Florida. Oh, welcome back to Boston, Brad Marchand. That's a hell of a way to go back. Fetch Dallas first and third for Tage, honestly, but I would hate to lose him due to chemistry. Yeah. Oh, he didn't play. Sorry, guys. I'm still hacking stuff up. I didn't want y'all to see that shit. It's not pleasant. Oh, we already said that one. Dylan Bollinger says he didn't play. Him referencing Marchand. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can do something a little bit better on this power play here. Ali Yasmin says, not going to lie, I would have loved Marchand. We could use a player like that. The physicality, the irritation aspect, and also he's one of those guys that you don't like playing against, but everybody, when you're playing with him, you really like him. And, Jarvis, like, he already said that he was really excited about playing with him at Four Nations and everything. But the biggest thing that you get from someone like Brad Marchand is probably just the raw playoff experience, which this team is getting more and more of it every time it goes to the playoffs. But like that guy has a ton of it, and he's been to the top of the mountain too. So Marchand is one of those guys I think people like kind of or mischaracterize him just based on what he does on the ice. And it's like anything else. A lot of people are different when they're at home. Oh, wait, that was a good pass there by Stankoven. All right, so the cycling looks good here. Let's not cycle it too much. Let's get 2 or 3 crisp passes, try to get them open, the penalty killers, and shoot. But yeah, a lot of people, it's like just like in real life. It's like when I was in the military, especially the first couple of years I was in, there were some people that I was really good friends, that I'm still good friends with, that I still talk to pretty frequently. And a lot of them had the same thing to say about me. They said they loved hanging out with me outside of work, but they hated working with me. Just some people are different when they're away from their job. And I was the same way, especially back then. So it's like a lot of them told me that they were just like, we like hanging out with you outside of work. You're pretty chill, but at work, you're a complete and absolute piece of shit. Not like that I didn't do things. I was just not the most agreeable guy, and I was hard to work with at times. And I'm still kind of like that now. So I get it, but is that clean out? That's clean out. Yep. 5-on-3. All righty. With one of their penalty killers in the box with Victor Hedman. Okay. Levy Lato says, my only hockey fan friend is a Bruins fan. I can't imagine how pissed he would be if we had gotten Marchand. That surprises me that you're finishing. You only got one hockey fan friend. All right, boys, let's not overthink it. Settle it down. Let's see. So they got Ghost, Pops, Jarvis, Fishy, Stankoven. All right. You're overthinking it. See, like they're beating themselves on this penalty or on this power play right now. Good entry. Shoot that. Held on to it for just a little bit too long. Yeah, they got to figure something out with the power play. Otherwise, that's going to be our Achilles heel in the damn playoffs. This power play is just, they need to really figure this out. I mean, it looks like a lot of other things have been solved through addition by subtraction with additional addition, i.e. Mikko being gone, Jankowski and Stankoven being in. But everything is good defensive play by Morrow. I don't see how you're wanting to call that a penalty. You just lost an edge. Okay. Evan, our power play is fucking abysmal. Like, watching our power play, like, it reminds me of fucking 2008, 2009. Or no, actually, you know what it reminds me of more than anything? Like, early 2010 North Korea testing missiles. It's that fucking bad. More with some extra patience there, kind of like what Sean Walker did earlier. That looked really good. See, once Morrow starts getting good at doing that stuff he did just there, where he did that little button hook at the blue line, held on to possession for an extra second, and then distributed the puck. Once he gets really good at that at the NHL level, he's going to be even more valuable. You see, when I was watching him play at UMass, he did that all the time. He's been doing it a lot at the AHL level. So John Cooper is telling somebody that they're not getting a Christmas card right there before commercial. But yeah, no, the Canes power play right now reminds me of like in the early 2010s when North Korea was trying to test their missiles. I'm just waiting on it to blow up in our face. Yeah, so there's that. They're just overthinking it too much because every time they go on a 5-on-3, it's just kind of like, I know you have to try to have quality shots and everything, but it's like they're just overthinking and playing hot potato with it too much. Shoot the damn puck. I mean, hell, you could apply that to half the guys on this team if they would shoot the puck more. Aho in particular, he needs to like stop being friends with Teravainen or something. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Evan Smith, our power play is so bad. Yeah, it is. We literally score more on our penalty kill. You know what? Got an idea. Next time that we take a penalty, we just like go into their zone and play 4-on-4 and have the fifth guy hanging back at the blue line, not the offensive blue line, but the defensive blue line. And then when they clear it out, then that guy gets it and just dumps it back in. Everybody tags up and they can just chase, they can just tag up and go in and get the puck and just be like, you know what, fuck it. Just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm joking. Don't actually do that. Dylan Bollinger says, small little sample of Slavin and Morrow there. Yeah, and I liked what I saw, especially out of Morrow. Reese Bailey says, chasing the puck on the power play every time they get one. This team could have superstars up and down the lineup. It's going nowhere with this AHL special teams unit. Yeah, that's the one thing that's got to get fixed, or they're not going to be in the playoffs for very long. Like, the power play doesn't need to set the world on fire when you're getting all kinds of net positives from good 5-on-5 defense, good amount of 5-on-5 scoring, kill penalties very frequently, have probably a higher than average amount of shorthanded goals. I'm going to look and see how many they have compared to the rest of the league. But if the power play is not at least around 20%, probably a little bit higher, the later you get in the playoffs, you're not going to win. Levy Leto says, I have a few hockey fan friends in Finland, but I don't talk to them often. After I moved to Munich, Germany for university, I've had trouble finding hockey fans. Oh, okay. One thing that I've always wanted to do, I haven't gotten around to it again, or haven't gotten around to it, I should say. I would like to go to a game, or at least a few games in Europe, just because everyone's told me, and I've seen it like when I've watched them on YouTube and everything, how different the like atmosphere is. My friend Mark, who's a really big Washington Capitals fan, he's retired now and he's living in Italy. He was telling me about how different the environment is there. He's like, the on-ice product's a little bit slower. They're playing on the bigger ice and all that type of stuff. But he said the environment is like crazy with the chants that they do. And it's not really as a big on the whole music between the whistle things and everything like that. But it's much more, the crowd is much more interactive and less spectator-like. And that's something I would like to experience for myself. So one day I would like to go to a game in Europe. Let me know if you've been to like what's the name of the team in Germany? Or not in Germany, in Munich. Is it Red Bull? Don't tell me, I'm looking it up, but I want to say it's Munich and Red Bull. Red Bull, Munich, and EHC. All right, I remembered. That is awesome. All right. Yasmin, frustrating how we score more on the penalty kill than the power play. Yeah, and I wrote a post about that one time that maybe it was an issue with the way that the coach does some things that were generating more high danger chances and scoring more often on the penalty kill than we are on the power play. And, it's like every time I would write a post like that, the guillotine rolled out and half the crowd wanted it to be for me and half of it wanted to be for Rod. And I'm like, no, hold the fuck on. I'm just trying to have a nuanced conversation here. But people can't do that about it. And I'm just like, look, I never said fire the guy. I got accused of saying that. I never did. And I never said to throw the entire system out. I just said we need to change some shit about it. And, eventually we won't lose nearly every single playoff game that we've lost in the last. Let's see. Actually, let's think about it. Okay, so the game we got eliminated last year, we basically lost by 1 goal because one was an empty netter. Lost the first 3 games of that series by 1 goal. The only game that they lost to the Islanders that year, they lost in that year's playoffs, they lost by 1 goal in overtime. And then there was the 4-goal sweep before that with the Panthers. So it's like they keep losing by 1 goal. Like, Carolina doesn't need a ton of net positives to really make a difference here. They just got to do a little bit more. Reese Bailey says what's frustrating is that it was basically elite before 2025. Yeah, most of last season during the regular season, it was fucking great. I don't know what's going on now and everything. I don't know what's causing that. Levy Lateau says, please stop giving us power plays, Tampa. You're making us look bad. I think that's their new plan. Jesus, this power play is fucking abysmal. 0 shots on the last power play. Oof. Hold it, Cooch. A lot more control there in that situation. Now, that was a good time to drop the stick considering what he did there. Levy Lateau's Red Bull is the Mucin team. Okay, yeah. I thought so. Yeah, because normally he would have came out a lot farther to try and make that play there. So good on Cooch there. Let me grab another water real quick, guys. Make sure my dog ain't laying behind me. All right, cool. Ali Yasmin says, I'm trying to love Stank, but he looks too much like my ex. Give it some time. He'll lose a couple of teeth, and then he won't look like him no more. Ab Clark says, I feel like Cooch trying to get his NHL 25 rating up. I don't know. Ooh, I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight. Alrighty. We're going to see a lot of KK's line out here probably. Maybe a lot of the Rolex line here for the last minute 45. Yeah, I mean, Monaco, like, I think he's a good commentator and all. But he just said that Kochetkov came out there aggressively to play that one. That was not aggressive, I don't think. I mean, at least by Kochetkov's standards. But we also see him play a lot more often than Mike Monaco does. So I didn't think that was that aggressive just when he came out to play the puck there a few seconds ago. This ESPN hasn't been horrible, I think, actually. I don't think it has either. Monaco is good. And Bob Wischusen is good. I'm not the biggest Butchercross fan. Now, I like John Butchercross, especially like all the attention he's given college hockey. I just don't really like his commentary. I'm trying to remember what's the other guy's name. Everyone calls him Dracula. Sean McDonough. Sean McDonough is an excellent football commentator, I just don't feel like he has the speed to call hockey. I love watching Sean McDonough on College Game Day. I think he's an excellent football commentator. I just think he's a little bit too slow for hockey. Let's see who else is there that I'm trying to think of. I'm as far as ESPN commentator goes, Monaco is good. Now, as far as like the guys they have in the studio, a lot of people don't like Steve Levy. I actually think he's all right. I don't always agree with a lot of the things that he has to say. Messier, don't particularly care for. Here's where I'm going to catch some heat. I actually like PK Subban for the most part, but when he does say something that I disagree with, it is wildly like far away from like anything I would agree with. Like I either agree with him or I'm like, okay, what the fuck are you talking about? There's like no in between. Ryan Callahan, he's all right. I didn't know he was going to be a commentator at first, and then when they brought him, I was like, all right, we'll see how it goes. And he's all right if you ask me. His ability to break down the game in real time is not the best, if you ask me. Other than that, I think he's fine. Now, TNT, on the other hand, I've never been a big Kenny Albert fan. Eddie Olczyk, this stream will go on for another hour of me talking about how much I hate Eddie Olczyk if I get started on that. I didn't like him before all the bullshit with the Canes letting his brother go and everything. But ever since then, he's just been a petty little bitch about it, for lack of a better term. He's just always been a whiny little fucking bitch about it. And he lets that leak into something he gets paid a lot of money to do, and I think that that's wrong. John Forsland, of course, is my favorite of all time. The best ESPN commentator that there ever was, though, by far, Gary Thorne. Gary Thorne was the best one. Him and Bill Clement, excellent. Those guys played off of each other very well in the booth. Let's see what the 3 stars are going to be here. I agree with that one. Coach. Rolex. Let's go. I love it when I see a defenseman get the first star because he wasn't just good tonight because of that goal. He played great defensively as well. Sean Walker, the defensive side of his game is really underrated in my opinion. I mean, he's the most underrated guy on the team now. All right. Let's get some more of the comments here. Levy Lato says, with Kucherov hurt or benched after the second, and Nav Clark says, I think he is sick. Coach said before the game he didn't feel good. Yeah, I remember seeing something about that too while I was at work. Let's see what Jarvie has to say here. Bro, Seth Jarvis is fucking hilarious. Good attitude to have about it. Is someone holding a picture of a Canadian flag with... Yeah, okay, it's a picture of a Canadian flag, but whose face was on it there in the... Seth Jarvis is... God, he's so damn funny. If playing hockey hadn't worked out, he could have easily been like an actor or a comedian or something. All right, let me turn this off here, and then we'll get to the rest of the comments, and then we are going to call it a night. Mike Stramaglio, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Great performance tonight. Absolutely. I was very happy with the team. They had a bit of a rough start in the first. They got better as the game went along. They bend, but they don't break. Eventually, they start taking over the game, especially their latter part of the second period, and there was no looking back from there. But they would be winning every game like 7-1 if they just figured the damn power play out. Holy shit. Levy Lateau says, I would have had him as second or first. Okay, that's 100% deserved for Walker. Yeah, I like the 3-star selection tonight. I really do. Matthew Brown says, I've been praying for Sean to get a goal. He's been long overdue for one. Yes, and I think that next season, now that he's fully acclimated to the team and everything, he will... The offense will start showing up a little bit more. He was more concerned being able to be the safety valve for Sean Walker, or excuse me, for Shane Gostisbehere, and he's done that job very well. And I think now those guys have developed that really good balance, that really good chemistry to where Ghost will maintain the amount of production he normally does or get back to the levels he was at the beginning of the season would be best. And Sean Walker's going to start chipping in more offense as well. Mike Stramaglio says, I can picture Jarvis in a plaid shirt, backwards cap and a beer, a real lunch pail guy. I absolutely could do. I could. It's not just about being good at hockey. It's about being good for the room, and Seth Jarvis is most certainly one of those guys. Like, I did not realize how special that kid was going to be to this organization. I really didn't. The only guy I really realized was going to be incredibly special to the organization as far as our core players now is Slavin. I thought Aho was going to be like a 75-point winger, and then he turned into a point-per-game center. Now, a lot of that is thanks to Rod, but it's like a lot of these guys panned out better than we ever could imagine, and I think Seth Jarvis is one of them. Evan Smith said Jarvis needs his own TV show. Yeah, he's going to be on that Amazon one next year, so I might actually take the time to watch that because I didn't watch the first season of it. Shows like that typically don't interest me a whole lot. A lot of people are really interested in the players as people, and for the most part, I'm not. Nothing wrong with that. That's just, how people choose to take in their content. I'm more interested in what they do on the ice, what gear they use. Actually, I'm a really big nerd about that. But what gear they use on the ice, how they play, stats. I'm more into that. But a show with Seth Jarvis being the headliner of it, I might actually watch that. So Mike Stramaglio says, you nailed it, man. Thank you. I just want to make sure I was pronouncing your name right. Levy Lateau says, great game and a great watch party tonight. It's already past 3 a.m. for me, so I'm out. Thanks for the show, and thanks for everyone in chat as well. Have a good one. And I will see you next time, buddy. Thank you for joining us as well. And that extends to all of you. Thank you for joining us. I will try my absolute best on Friday to do Landfall Hour. I don't see any reason why I won't do Landfall Hour and Damage Report both on Saturday. The one reason why that may not happen, I haven't ruled it out yet, but it's unlikely. I might go to Philadelphia for the game on Saturday. I haven't decided yet. I'm more than likely not going to because I would like a weekend just to kind of catch up on shit and relax because I've been sick since Thursday. I might go to Philadelphia on Saturday because if I take toll road, it's only 2.5 hours. I haven't decided yet. I'm considering it, but likeliness is no. But if I don't actually physically go to Philadelphia, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't have both shows on Saturday and Friday for that matter as well. I'll just need to chug an extra monster before Friday because I got to work that day. So I'll get to these last comments here and then I'm done for the night. Mike Stramaglio says Rangers really struggling. Hope they miss the playoffs. I'm pretty sure they will. Like I said, I don't know if you saw earlier in the stream, I would love to see Carolina and Columbus play in the first round. Not because I think it would be an easy series, because it would not be, but I just want to see Carolina play somebody different. We've played the same teams so much in the last few years since the playoff drought ended. It's been the Islanders 3 times. And if you're counting the bubble and the qualifiers, Boston 3 times, Rangers 3 times. I'm ready to see somebody else. I really am. That was one of the cool things about the modified bubble year is we played against 2 teams that we have not seen in the playoffs again. And one of them we'll never see in the playoffs again unless we see them in the Stanley Cup finals, and that's Nashville. And so long as they have Brady Shea on that roster, that will not happen. Thanks for hosting. You're quite welcome, my friend. Dylan, it was a good first game for this. Yeah, I've been wanting to do something like this. I don't want to do this super often, but since I couldn't get home in time to do an actual Landfall hour like I wanted to, I'm like, you know what? I'll just do a watch party. We can just sit around, bullshit, talk about stuff, watch the game together, and do that. So I'll do this a few times a season. Stay tuned for something that we're planning on doing right after the season ends. Me and my friends over at Caniac Sessions, Caniac Report, the Sam's, Griffin, AB. We're going to put together a really comprehensive end of season type of stream where we talk about each individual player extensively, how we thought they performed, what they can do better in the future, all that type of stuff. That one will probably be a good 2 hours long like this one. And I wouldn't be surprised if we end up kind of breaking it in half maybe. So we'll see what we do in regards to that. But I'm going to call it a night. Thank you guys very much for all your support. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Y'all take care. I will see you next time, hopefully as soon as Friday. Peace.